Everybody knows Diddy's name is drenched in scandal. From the freak-off parties to the lawsuits, he's been painted as one of the darkest figures in hip-hop. But what if we've been looking at the wrong man all along? What if the monster wasn't born, but made? There's a man whose fingerprints are allegedly on some of the most tragic deaths in the music industry. A man who didn't just discover stars, but may have destroyed them too. Janis Joplin, Whitney Houston, Aaliyah, Left Eye, Phyllis Hyman, all gone. And standing silently in the background, Clive Davis. He's the industry icon credited with shaping legends. But behind the polished legacy is a terrifying rumor that Clive Davis didn't just build Diddy, he broke him and passed down everything he knew about control, corruption, and complete domination. This is the story the industry doesn't want you to hear. Before he was one of the most feared names in music, Clive Davis was just a New York lawyer with a Harvard degree and ambition deeper than the ocean. At just 28, he joined Columbia Records, and within years, he was the kingmaker behind acts like Janis Joplin, Pink Floyd, Bruce Springsteen, and Aerosmith. These weren't just musicians, they were cultural revolutions, and Clive Davis was sitting at the top of it all. But even in the early days, there were warning signs. Aerosmith shouted him out in a song, saying, "Clive Davis said he's surely going to make us a star." But not everyone meant it as a compliment. The Grateful Dead once joked they went from playing for acid to playing for Clive. It was subtle shade, but it meant something. Davis was already known for flipping the art into business and squeezing every dime from it. Then came 1973, when the empire nearly collapsed. Clive was caught stealing $94,000, allegedly to fund his son's bar mitzvah. But according to insiders, that was just the cover story. Around the same time, the feds raided Columbia Records and Paramount. Why? Because employees were allegedly involved in an international heroin ring moving product between Italy, Canada, and the U.S. Clive was never officially charged, but whispers said he was laundering the drug money, and that $94,000 he stole? Some claim it came straight from heroin profits. It gets worse. Reports claimed Columbia Records had an in-house pimp who brought women and drugs to the artists. It was a party factory built on vice, and Clive was at the center of it all. By the end of that year, Columbia had kicked him to the curb. Most execs would have vanished in disgrace. Not Clive. After getting booted from Columbia Records, Clive Davis could have faded into the shadows. But instead of disappearing, he re-emerged, more powerful and more untouchable than ever. In 1974, just 1 year after his scandal, Clive launched Arista Records, and in no time, it became one of the most influential labels in music history. He signed icons like Aretha Franklin, Barry Manilow, and eventually Whitney Houston. To the public, it looked like a redemption story. Clive, the fallen genius, rebuilding the dream. But behind the curtain, the same darkness followed him. Clive didn't just sign artists, he owned them. Sources say he delayed album releases for years, took extreme creative control, and dictated nearly every move his artists made. His contracts were tight, his control tighter. If you didn't follow the plan, your career disappeared, and the industry knew it. Quietly, people began warning up-and-coming artists about the price of fame under Clive, but most ignored it. After all, working with him meant guaranteed success, until it didn't. Because for the artists who stepped out of line or wanted independence, things got ugly fast. Whitney Houston was already on her way to stardom when Clive Davis entered the picture. She had talent, a famous mother, and a growing reputation. But once Clive saw her perform, he made his move and signed her to Arista almost immediately. What followed was decades of domination. Clive molded Whitney into America's sweetheart. He controlled everything, from her songs to her image to the people around her. Some insiders say Whitney never had true freedom in her career. She was a voice, and he was the puppeteer behind it. Then came 2012. Whitney was found dead in the bathtub of her Beverly Hilton hotel room just hours before Clive's annual Grammy party. She had reportedly used cocaine, and her heart condition likely played a role. But here's what made people furious. Clive didn't cancel the party, not even a tribute. He kept it going, with her lifeless body just floors above. To some, it was a cold move. To others, it was calculated. And the rumors started spreading like wildfire. A private investigator later claimed Whitney was murdered over unpaid drug debts, that she owed money to dangerous people, and that her death wasn't an accident, but a warning. Then a strange video surfaced. 2 days before her death, Whitney crashed an interview Clive was doing with Brandy. She passed Brandy a folded piece of paper, a note she never explained. Online theories exploded. Was it a cry for help? A warning to stay away from Clive? Did Whitney know her time was running out? Whatever it was, the timing was chilling. By the time Sean Diddy Combs entered the industry, Clive Davis was already a legend. Diddy got his start under Andre Harrell at Uptown Records. But when Harrell fired him, Clive swooped in and bankrolled Bad Boy Records. Some say it was a business deal. Others say it was something much darker. Suge Knight once claimed that Clive Davis, Russell Simmons, and Andre Harrell all used drugs and alcohol to abuse Diddy, physically and emotionally, that they compromised his manhood and in doing so, created a monster who would later do the same to others. And when Diddy rose to power, he passed on the lessons. Usher, Justin Bieber, countless others. The pattern, according to insiders, was chilling. Find young talent, isolate them, control them, and break them. Rumors even swirled that Clive and Diddy were romantically involved. In 2013, Clive released a memoir where he came out as bisexual. He admitted to dating men after 2 failed marriages, but kept one serious boyfriend anonymous. Many believe he was talking about Diddy. Whether that's true or not, the influence is undeniable. Clive allegedly taught Diddy how to play the game and how to rig it. And if the stories are true, he also taught him how to destroy people while keeping his own hands clean. TLC was on top of the world. With over 75 million albums sold, Left Eye, T-Boz, and Chili were dominating music and changing the game for female artists. But behind the fame and flashy music videos, they were broke. And not just kinda broke. We're talking can't pay rent broke. Why? Because Clive Davis was allegedly bleeding them dry. Even at the height of their success, TLC members were each walking away with barely $50,000 a year. Their tours made millions. Their albums went multi-platinum. But somehow, the math never added up. Eventually, Left Eye had enough. She allegedly came up with a plan to kidnap Clive Davis at gunpoint. Yes, that Clive Davis, the man who built Arista Records and helped launch Diddy's empire. The plan was wild. Storm Arista, hold Davis hostage, and force him to pay up what he owed. It wasn't a joke. They had guns, they had bullets, and they were ready to risk it all. But just before it went down, Diddy snitched. According to T-Boz, Puffy caught wind of the plan and immediately warned Clive. "Yo, your girl's up here wildin'," he allegedly said. The hostage plot was dead before it began. And TLC, still broke, still trapped, still controlled. And then came the final blow. Section 6, Left Eye switches sides, then dies. After the hostage plan fizzled, Left Eye was done. She quit Arista Records, started working with Suge Knight, and began planning her solo comeback on death row. But Clive wasn't about to let that happen. When Left Eye released her first solo single under Arista, it didn't chart the way they hoped. So Clive Davis canceled her album, cut her off completely. So she switched labels, she switched coasts, she joined Diddy's sworn enemy. It was bold, And just weeks before she was set to relaunch her career, Left Eye died in a car crash in Honduras. And here's where it gets creepy. 2 weeks before her death, Left Eye accidentally ran over a child while her assistant was driving. She was devastated. She paid for the funeral and gave money to the family. But then she told friends that she felt haunted, followed, like something was coming for her. She even said she thought she was next. Then the crash happened. No one could believe it. But some think her death wasn't an accident at all. There's one name that keeps coming up, Hype Williams, the legendary music video director who's worked with nearly every big name in the game. He directed TLC's No Scrubs, Left Eye's solo visuals, and even flew to Honduras with her a year before she died. He was always around. But what was he really doing? After Left Eye's death, people started connecting dots and realized Hype Williams was also linked to Aaliyah's final days. In 2001, Aaliyah died in a mysterious plane crash after filming the video for Rock the Boat. Originally, that shoot was supposed to happen in Miami, but Hype allegedly moved it to the Bahamas at the last minute. Aaliyah's team was uneasy. The plane was too small. The luggage was too heavy. Even the pilot didn't want to fly. But someone pushed for takeoff. And just moments after leaving the runway, the plane went down. Everyone on board was killed. Later, authorities revealed the pilot had cocaine and alcohol in his system. It felt like negligence, or worse. People started wondering, was Hype Williams just a director? Or was he something darker? Was he Clive Davis's fixer? Because the pattern was undeniable. Artists who fought Clive seemed to end up dead. And Hype, he was always close. Section 8. The Clive Curse. Hyman, Joplin, and the stars who didn't survive. By now, the pattern was hard to ignore. Artist rises. Clive Davis enters. Artist struggles. And then they're gone. Sometimes broke, sometimes blackballed, sometimes dead. And it wasn't just Whitney, Aaliyah, and Left Eye. Let's talk about Phyllis Hyman. In the 1970s, she was on the come-up, gritty, powerful, and beloved by real music fans. She signed with Buddha Records and was doing well. But when Clive Davis bought out the label, she was transferred to Arista. That's when everything changed. Insiders say Clive didn't believe in her, that he buried her projects, canceled promotional pushes, and tried to starve her career. Phyllis didn't back down. She fought back, but it came with a cost. She got pushed out of radio, out of venues, out of the game. Years later, she finally escaped her Arista contract. But the damage was done. The fire she had was dimmed. In the 90s, rumors spread that Clive was still trying to keep her from making a full comeback. Then, in 1995, Phyllis Hyman took her own life. She left behind a note. Just 4 chilling words stood out. I'm tired. I'm tired. Next, rewind even further. Janis Joplin, a powerhouse, a rebel, a soul on fire. She was one of Columbia Records' biggest stars when Clive Davis was climbing the ranks. She battled heroin addiction, sure, but so did half the industry. What makes her case different is how many people died from that same drug batch the weekend she OD'd. Some say it was a bad supply. Others think it was intentional poisoning, a cleanup job meant to remove a problem and silence someone who knew too much. Clive admitted something strange in his book. He said when he first signed Janis, she offered to sleep with him to make the deal official. He claimed he turned her down. But even if that's true, it shows their relationship wasn't just business, it was personal, deeply personal. And the deeper the relationship with... So how has Clive Davis survived this long? That's the question Nick Bryant, an investigative journalist who helped expose the Epstein network, has been asking for years. And according to him, the answer is simple. Clive Davis might be a federal informant. Nick appeared on the Sean Ryan podcast and didn't hold back. He said there's no way someone could allegedly commit this many felonies, from drug laundering to artist abuse to financial fraud. and walk away untouched for over 50 years, unless someone powerful was protecting him. Nick believes that Clive's ties reach into the government, that he's not just a music mogul, but a protected asset. And the scariest part? The same federal prosecutor who handled the Epstein case, Damian Williams, is the one now overseeing the Diddy case. According to Bryant, it's no coincidence. He says the government is making sure only Diddy goes down, while keeping Clive and other untouchables out of the spotlight. And when Clive was asked recently about Diddy being arrested, he suddenly had nothing to say. Diddy once said Clive Davis was the first man who ever truly believed in him, the man who gave him a shot when no one else would. But now it's starting to look like that opportunity came with a price, a dark one. If these rumors are even half true, Clive Davis didn't just shape the music industry. He twisted it. He created icons, then allegedly destroyed them. And if he really taught Diddy how to build power through fear, control, and abuse, then Diddy isn't the mastermind. He's the apprentice. As the federal investigation into Diddy deepens, one thing is clear: the rabbit hole doesn't stop with him. And if the walls ever close in on Clive Davis, the music world will never be the same again. Because the question isn't just what did Diddy do? It's who taught him how.